All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 306 Fantasy Football Podcast. Football season is back. It is back. We're recording on the Tuesday evening here, episode 127. And within, well, one day after this pod drops, 2 days from us recording, we will be watching live football and glued to our phones for fantasy football season. We finally did it. We made it. We're back. Awesome time.
Woo!
Armin and I, it's just me, it's us two tonight. Zach is away, and we are currently recording at 8:40 p.m. and our charity league drops at 9:30 tonight. So this might be a short and simple episode. So that way, Armin can get on the phone here and get the draft rolling. So we're getting into it. We'll say hello to Armin first and see how his first week back here has been, and then we'll get into it.
Well, when you say get on my phone and not miss a draft here, Jordan, man, this may sound bad as being a guy on a podcast, but I ended up having some dumb bad luck with leagues week or this year. And one league, I had the draft time wrong, and I completely auto drafted.
Oh God.
I know. I was very disappointed in myself. I came in with 2 rounds left and was like, what is going on here? I was checking all day, making sure I had it. I don't know how I saw it wrong. Maybe it was just like it said it was like 8:30, but I didn't realize that it said like 8:30, Pacific time.
Yeah.
But yeah, something happened there and I completely missed it. And then the other one, just cloud coverage at the lake messed me up. So I made my first pick, made my second pick, and then in the third round, it just froze up on me. And I ended up having it auto draft on me the rest of the way through.
Watch you
So
have your best year of fantasy.
yeah, I know, right? But both those leagues, if guys from those leagues are listening, I'm sorry, but you're not the top priority leagues for me. So my other leagues, I got my drafts in and I did them the right way.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, and startup, man, it's busy. I'm tired, but you know what? I'm ready. And this weekend is my wife's 30th birthday, so happy birthday to her! A little early birthday. We're going down to Moose Jaw and we're checking out the tunnel, so it should be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be exciting. It's a big week for you then.
Oh yeah, real big.
My wife leaves this week. She's off to Calgary for the weekend, Friday or sorry, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and she'll be back Monday night. So I gotta do the dad thing all weekend, and me and Wells will be crushing some football Sunday. It's gonna be deadly. Couple boys weekend. Well, can't complain of that, especially after a long startup week and then first week back to school. It's gonna be tiring, that's for sure. But we'll get into things here. We got our quick question of the week, and then we'll kind of get right into some fantasy football talk.
Time to find out.
Okay, so question here. First one is who is a player that undrafted, or maybe you're for a deeper league, it might be drafted, but late. But in most leagues is relatively undrafted that you think could be a waiver wire stud following the completion of week one, meaning that who's somebody that's not on a lot of rosters right now, but you think could have a really big week one, and then people just be like spending up on fab big time in the free agency or burning waiver priority depending on what type of waivers you're in. So I'll let you go first here, Armin. You take care of this one.
All right. I put two down for this one. And the one I felt like I was cheating a little bit, so that's why I put a second one in. Because my first guy, the one that I'm really high on for being a waiver wire stud, is he's rostered in 44% of leagues already. So he's not in the majority of leagues rostered, but he still is rostered quite a bit. And that's Jaleel McLaughlin, running back for the Denver Broncos. And when you look at his season last year, like he kept getting more and more touches, getting more trusted every game, and he was efficient. We talk about how A Chain was so efficient. Keaton Mitchell last year was so efficient. McLaughlin was another one of those guys that when he had the ball, he made stuff happen, and he just earned more and more trust throughout the season. And now he's going into his second season, and as it stands right now, he is the most explosive player in that backfield with Javonte Williams, McLaughlin, and Audric Estime. And Williams and Estime are more of those bruiser style running backs, who are going to break tackles, and that's how they're going to get their big yards. Whereas McLaughlin is more that speedster guy. And also, when you look at how Sean Payton likes to use his running backs, he does like to give a lot of running back touches and to more than one running back. So I think McLaughlin is gonna have a better season than people think he's been going to have leading into the drafts here. And he's gonna have a bit more touches, be trusted a little bit more, and he's gonna make the most of those touches that he gets, even if he's not the workhorse in that offense. And then my second guy is I ended up going with another Denver Bronco, and that's the tight end, Greg Dulcich. I think if you missed out on the tight ends in your drafts and you're kind of in one of the lower end ones, Greg Dulcich is available in like over 90% of the leagues. He's only rostered in 7% on Sleeper, and he's the number one tight end there. He's flashed the ability to be a productive tight end when he has been healthy, and it's just about getting him comfortable. And with Bo Nix here, doing those shorter passes, that kind of leads to maybe a bit more tight end targets in that offense in the passing game. And so I think Greg Dulcich could be a sneaky pick for a tight end to have a great season. And if you missed out on one of the top five, maybe you pick him up and you end up being pretty happy with what you got.
The Dulcich one is like the Campos was pretty good. And he's a guy that was super good down the stretch his rookie season, and all of a sudden kind of just, it didn't happen. So especially because he was so good downfield. Like he was a downfield stretcher for a tight end, where, that's not the MO of a lot of tight ends in the NFL. So I put same thing. Mine's 33% rostered, and I think there's been a bit of a buzz lately. Like he wasn't drafted in a lot of leagues, but I think a lot of people would have maybe picked him up off the waiver wires. And that is wide receiver 2 from the Atlanta Falcons, and that is Darnell Mooney. He's kind of a guy that has fallen off the face of the fantasy earth for a bit here. He had his flash in the pan in Chicago, and now with a new home here in Atlanta. For the most part, especially Armin and myself here, we project Atlanta to be good this year. We really like Kirk Cousins this year, and there is definitely an outside percent chance that it could be Darnell Mooney and not Drake London. You know what I mean? Drake London could be the big play and possibly the touchdowns. Darnell Mooney could be the PPR machine underneath routes. He could be a guy that could become very reliable. That's a free square for you. That's either he picked up off the waivers before week 1, or you might have to go and spend a lot of fab on him if he busts out. And they're playing the Steelers, so not an impossible matchup. I wouldn't even say like maybe even a top 5, top 10 difficulty matchup here. So, and there's a chance they could get it done. So that's a name that I have been watching quite a bit, and I actually have picked up already in a few of my leagues. So I was trying to get ahead of the curve. We're doing a little segment here before we start. And this was kind of a fun one. We do a little bit of sports betting here on the podcast. So this is one that before the season starts, you get your future prop bets in. And as soon as Thursday hits, those prop bets, the futures will close. So we got a few here that we like. We'll go through them relatively, I suppose, quickly because, like I said, we want to try to keep this episode on the briefer side, and then we'll wrap things up with our weekly preview, where if you're new to the podcast, we talk about some starts and sits that we like this upcoming week, as we are just moments away from week 1. So I have 4 and Armin has 3. So I'll go first then, and then, or do you have 4, Armin? Sorry, you have 4, right?
Yeah, I have 4.
Okay, then you can start. Let's hear your first one first.
All right. So I'm starting simple here. I'm not going too hot yet with my first one. My first one, I want to try and get you a little bit of money here. But I decided to parlay together two division winners, and all the bets I'm going to say here today, I'm going to tell you I actually made these bets, and I'll tell you how much I bet on them. But I put the Arizona Cardinals and the Kansas City Chiefs to win their divisions in a two-leg parlay. The Arizona Cardinals were at plus 1,200 to win theirs, and then the Chiefs adding it in just to make it a little bit more valuable to me at minus 260 created a plus 1,800 parlay for me. And so that's, I put in $10 and I could get $180 back. And the way Jordan convinced me with his hype on Arizona that they have the possibility to win the division, I like rolling the dice on this one with the weapons they have. I think it's in the realm of possibility for them.
As much as I really wanted to put down that I wanted to take Arizona at plus 1,200, I actually am going after Los Angeles Rams to win that division at plus 350. I on the last episode and the episode before that, I've been talking about my how much I do like the Rams this coming season. I do like Stafford. I like Cooper Cup. And I feel like as much as I do like the Arizona offense, it is a bit of a stretch. So it is one that I feel like I still might put down a little bit on, but the plus 350 for Arizona or for Los Angeles, sorry, to win the NFC West is one that I feel like is a very, very real possibility. I haven't quite got into my parlays yet here, as Armin has discussed, but I can see myself very much being in a position where I'm putting the Rams and the Lions together to win their divisions, as I feel like those are two of my favorite teams to cheer for. So ones where I feel like I'll be happy if that one hits, obviously for the money, but also for the players as well too. Your second one, Armin.
All right. So this one I am trying to be a little bit more conservative, and I built a four-leg parlay on division winners. And you might notice here that I kind of doubled up on a division from the last bet. So rather than having Arizona win the division, I put San Fran down this time. I put KC again, so you can see I'm very confident in Kansas City winning their division. And then I parlayed in Philadelphia and Detroit as well. This one was, I thought, a bit more conservative, and so did the app that I've been using for betting. So I ended up with a plus 800 odds on this one with this four-leg parlay. So I put a wager of $10 on this one as well, and it would return $81. Kind of just putting it out there for San Fran as well. And I'm just gonna say this as well with the bets I make. I'm gonna be honest. I'm an aggressive bettor. I don't like to make bets that are just gonna nickel and dime me up. Which maybe I should be.
Free money.
Yeah. But you know what? I like to shoot for home runs here, and maybe one of these will pan out. I like these big odds shooting for home runs in the regular season, starting for like full season things, especially because it's kind of fun to see how the season ends up turning out here.
My next one here, I have two players to mention. The one, the odds are just so nice, especially with how well I think he's going to have of a season. I just think that it's going to be difficult for him to win this award because he was kind of back last year. Like he played the second, not second half, but the tail end of the season and was good in that season. So like I feel like he might not get the votes because he still was back. And that's Kyler Murray at comeback player of the year for plus 2,000. So like the odds speak for itself. He's a long shot out. But the one that I have bet on, and I think is kind of crazy that he is the third of betting odds for this one, is comeback player of the year for Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers right now is number one at plus 160, then Joe Burrow at plus 230, and then there's Kirk Cousins at 450. And if Atlanta is anywhere near as close to as good as we think they're going to be, then this is his award to win. Like Joe Burrow, yeah, like he missed a lot of last season, but I think everybody kind of expects the Bengals to be good. I think Aaron Rodgers, I've spoken what I think about Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have a bad year, so I don't really think he's going to win that one. But Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles, and even if he, I think if he takes them to the playoffs, um, and putting up even remotely close to the numbers he put up in Minnesota, I think he'd be a front runner for that award at plus 450. So that's one of my favorite ones to put on because I do believe in Kirk Cousins this season. Armin, your next one.
All right. So now I'm gonna hint at the next one as well as I started betting on player receiving yards, and so I made two parlays, each one with six receivers in it for 1,000 yards. So the first one, the more conservative one that I made, is Marvin Harrison Jr., Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman Jr., Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, and Zay Flowers, all guys that I think it's very much in their realm of possibilities to reach 1,000 yards receiving, and I think everyone would be disappointed in those players if they didn't reach 1,000 yards this year. What do you think, Jordan? Do you think I'm kind of right when I'm saying that with those guys?
Uh 1,000 yards is bold. That's part of the problem. Is like you can't get injured. You know, like
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson did it, but he's also a freak. Like, you know what I mean? He got injured, still did 1,000 yards, but 1,000 yards is bold. Like, that's hard to do in the NFL.
Yeah.
Part of the
Now,
problem, and I'm not,
Now, I made this bet before Ayuk signed his contract as well. So
yeah,
the odds are a little bit more stacked in my favor than now, and now that Ayuk did signed it. I just think with it is that you don't have to be a great receiver to get 1,000 yards anymore, because it's like you
you
got
just gotta be
17
healthy. You gotta
games.
be good and healthy.
Yeah, you got to be good and healthy. You have to average, what is it, like 60 yards a game, something like that, right? I could break it down and do the maths, but
Yeah,
it's somewhere in that range, like 60 to 70 yards a game is all you need to average. And I think all those guys are very capable. They've done 1,000 yard seasons, and where they're being drafted right now, it's kind of like, actually no, Zay Flowers, that's a lie, has not had 1,000 yard season yet. But I think just like with you expecting Flowers to move up, Terry McLaurin is playing with the best QB he's ever had. Amari Cooper had a hot finish to last year. Pittman put up 1,000 last year. Ayuk put up 1,000 last year, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. is expected to just come in and roll here. He was actually at the lowest odds at negative 155 out of all the players I made this bet on to get 1,000 yards. So I like it. And this one I put a $10 wager, and then the return is potentially $812. So I really liked what I built there and like what these players are and what the return's gonna be, because that's what is that again? That's plus 800 on it. And yeah, so I'm excited about that one.
the
That's
one
the one I'm
thing,
most excited about.
the one thing I will say about parlaying those types of like touchdowns and receiving yards, it scares the hell out of me, and I feel like the
Hmm.
odds don't reflect well enough because like if you parlay in a game, say I'm parlaying two guys to get a touchdown and two guys to get 100 yards, it's the one game. It's in that game. You know what I mean? But for somebody to get 1,000 yards, you need all of those guys to stay healthy throughout a 17 game season.
Yeah.
Like that's a scary proposition because all it takes is one player to get banged up or one player to get hurt and the whole thing is shot.
Yeah.
So like
And
if,
that's
if I'm doing a
why
one game
I
parlay,
made
a
two
guy could
on.
get a touchdown on the first drive and then he gets hurt in the second drive, but hey, at least hit his touchdown. I can still hit my one game parlay. But if Ayuk goes down week two, that parlay's over. So like that's what scares me about parlaying those prop bets. Because I mean, Kirk Cousins may not come back until week four because he gets re-aggravated in week one. And then it's like, okay, comeback player of the year. A little bit tougher to do when you're missing 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
but still possible. But if I parlayed that with, I don't know, Justin Jefferson, offensive player of the year, and he goes down week two, like it's over. It's done. So those do scare me. I will mention that. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to be gutsy to be able to do those ones, but
That's what I said. I'm being aggressive.
yeah. My next one here, I am taking is probably my favorite. It's because it's the team I'm cheering for. So this one and then the next one are my two favorite. Like I put these ones in early, and the one I'm going to talk about this one is Detroit Lions Super Bowl champions. That's plus 1,200, and I was actually a little bit shocked by that. Like looking at the like to win outright markets is what they call it. San Francisco plus 5,500 or 50 or 550, sorry. Chiefs 550, Baltimore 900, the Bills 1,200, Bengals 1,200, and the Lions 1,200. So the Lions are tied for fourth best odds, but 4 through 7. Then Eagles slightly behind them, then the Cowboys, Texans, so on and so forth. Um, they're projected to obviously be a better defense than they were last year, especially their secondary. And their offense is rinse and repeat. Yeah, they lost Josh Reynolds, which I think is a bit of a bigger loss to, as a Lions fan than the average fan thinks because he was such a reliable receiver for that offense. But then Jameson Williams is projected to take a big step forward too. So you can balance that out, I suppose. And it's a rinse and repeat with the coaching staff. Like we could have lost Ben Johnson or OC, and then it would have been, okay, there have been some question marks, but this is pretty much a reload for them. So that is obviously it's a homer take because I am a Lions fan, but this is one where I'm like, pretty excited about the fact that they're 1,200 odds. With other teams like the Bills, who have historically had not as good of odds, and I feel like is less likely to do this than the Lions are because of the state of affairs with their offense. So one of my favorite ones, and then I'll save my best for last. But Armin, your last prop bet.
Okay. I'm torn here between telling you my running back and then my second receiver one. Which one do you want to hear?
Whatever one is the craziest one.
The craziest one? Okay, here we go. My second receiver one. It's a 6-leg parlay again on 1,000-yard receivers. And this one, and I put it together and I saw the odds. I put a $1 wager on it. So that's why I did this one, is it was like, yeah, $1. Why not? Why not just like throw this loony into the pond and see if it comes out as $4,500? And so it's Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman, Marquis Brown, Cortland Sutton, and Kyle Pitts. So right there, I'm betting on two more rookies making 1,000 yards. Josh Palmer, who hasn't had 1,000-yard receiving season yet. Cortland Sutton, who I don't think has had one for a while. Same with Marcus Brown. And then Kyle Pitts, who hasn't had one since his rookie season. So, not great odds, but these are all guys that I'm high on going into this season. Besides Cortland Sutton, I threw him in there because I think they're going to take a step forward, and Sutton is the number one receiver there. So I'm high on these guys having good seasons this year. So I put a prop bet together on them and just threw out $1, and yeah, it's pretty crazy odds because I think that's what plus 4,500 odds pretty much for this one. With that $4,500 return on $1 bet. So yeah, I we'll see what happens, but it is a pretty crazy one. I wouldn't suggest anyone going out there and putting like $100 on it or something. You'd be probably just burning that money. But to throw $1 on it and just having fun with the betting, because that's to me what it is you don't bet money you don't have, right? So I'm just putting that dollar, a loony, that's half a coffee in the morning, just for fun to kind of see how this goes. And like, if these guys are getting close to 1,000 yards at the end of the season, man, like I'm gonna be texting Jordan every day, being like, or after every game, being like, "Oh my God, they're that much closer." I only need this many yards from Brian Thomas. Josh Palmer just got there. Coleman only needs this, and like it's gonna be so much fun. Like the enjoyment that I'm gonna get out of this dollar is gonna be fantastic, and that's why I made this bet.
Yeah, that would be insane. Like, so you're listing those names off. I'm like, oh dear God, like there's just no way. But then, like some of them have done it. That's the thing. But oh boy, that would be
Yeah, like
insanity.
that's the thing. Like the likelihood of them all doing it, no. The likelihood of them all having a chance to do it is there. Like that's how I see it, and like I'm just gonna enjoy it. And like watch me miss this by like a yard or something.
Oh,
Like,
that would be cruel. This early payout, early payout.
yeah.
Um, My last one, I jumped on this one super early. So I actually got it at plus 110. It's currently sitting at minus 130. So a
Yeah.
substantial difference because I jumped on this one nice and early. I got Derrick Henry over 10 and a half touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, I should say. So that was one I saw early, and it was on other podcasts. They're talking about it, and they're like, it's criminal that Derrick Henry at plus whatever odds. It should never be plus odds for 11 rushing touchdowns. I feel like this is one that he should easily hit shy of injury. If he gets injured, that's the risk that's in here. But with the way that offense is projected to score points, and with Henry having arguably the best offensive line he's had his career, I feel like this one should hit unless the wheels have fallen off, which I don't think they have. So one that I'm really excited I got in early on, but yeah, Derrick Henry, we're gonna be firing that one up big time, especially if he gets a couple early on Thursday nighter, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, then I will be having a good old time. Anyways, we got weekly prep here, and we'll wrap this one up.
24 hours after the game, you got to move on.
Right now, we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, so if you are unfamiliar with how this works, we all come with a start and we all come with a sit, and then we're not sitting here saying start Christian McCaffrey. Like that's just inevitable. So we're looking at those, fringe players that could be in your flex or your, wide receiver threes, RB2s, in those situations where, they have a tough matchup. Maybe I want to pivot, or maybe they have a really good matchup, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of all in on that one. So the week one is a tough one because most likely your top players you draft are the ones you're going to play. But there is, I think, some players that are later on in your draft that could be in a really good position to be, I think, RB2 for perspective of the players we're talking about, or or a flex play. So I'll start things off here, and mine is Jerome Ford versus Dallas. This was a name I was super excited about trying to get late in drafts. And I think a lot of people in the fantasy community were as well, just especially with the news of, help me out here, Armin, your boy from,
Chubb?
thank you, Nick Chubb being placed on the pup, meaning he's going to be at least 4 weeks out. And then Jerome Ford also getting his tires pumped from the coaching staff saying, we're really excited to see what he can do with another year as the primary running back in this offense. So the coaching staff's firing him up. He's the guy. And this Dallas offense, or sorry, this Dallas defense, my apology, a very good secondary, but they gave up some big games last season to the running back position. So, it is a good defense, but not as scary as people would think to the running back. So a flex play, RB2 play, I think for sure. And I'm curious on how this one goes because he could be a hot commodity coming down the stretch here, at least with Chubb on the pop. Armin, your start of the week. This one, I love it. I love this one big time.
Yeah, I went with Gus Edwards, the new LA Chargers running back. Right now it seems like he's listed at the top of the depth chart. J.K. Dobbins, I don't even know where he's sitting at, but I would not be too worried about him stealing touches from Edwards too much yet. The Chargers, you're gonna imagine, be a run first offense, and Las Vegas isn't the greatest defense, and I'm thinking LA should have a bit of a lead in this one and be able to be in more of a positive game script, which means running the ball more often throughout the game as well. And when you're doing that and you're trying to grind out the clock, you're going to be giving it to Gus the Bus.
Plus, he's their goal line guy. Like that's his MO.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they're scoring, hopefully they're scoring on the ground with Gus. But my sit, this one, I don't even say it's a cheat because like he was drafted later in drafts, but once again could be considered in your wide receiver 3 or flex position. And I feel like I want to take the wait and see approach with this offense. Could he be explosive and put up 2 touchdowns? You bet he can. But he could also pull up with a hammy injury right on the first play, or he could be kind of on the outside looking in on the wide receiver depth chart. And that's Christian Watson, wide receiver from the Green Bay Packers. This wide receiver room is so sporadic and unknown because Everybody's getting love. Dontavian Wicks is getting love. Jaden Reed is getting love. Christian Watson's getting love. Then you got Romeo
Doubs.
Dobbs. Like you got the whole group is getting love, and we don't know who it's gonna be. So if you have better options to throw in your wide receiver three, I understand you might want to go Watson because of the upside ability, but they're playing Philadelphia. Like the Philadelphia Eagles is a really good secondary and a good defense, and it's overseas. It's overseas in Brazil, so that plays in the factor too of like our their day to day, their game day routine. Everything's going to be a little bit different thrown off. So I mean, I'm really this is like not fantasy analytics here talking about the playing in Brazil is going to mean they're not going to put up points, but it's just another factor to consider. So I think I would like to just wait and see what happens with the Green Bay Packers. So last one here, Armin, you got your sit of the week.
Yeah, mine's kind of coming along the same lines of a wait and see approach with this player as well. He's in a new offense for himself. He's in a new team, and nothing has suggested to me that he's going to suddenly be the player that we've been promised he was going to be out of college, and that's Jerry Jeudy with the Cleveland Browns. They're playing Dallas this week, and like Amari Cooper is clearly their alpha. So that means Jerry Jeudy is their second option, and sometimes that can pay off a little bit. But I think I wanna start somebody else that I'm a little bit more sure on in their volume this week with a higher floor, and kind of see what Jerry Jeudy brings in that Cleveland Brown offense. Because honestly, like if I drafted him, I didn't draft him at all this year. But if I would have drafted him at all, I'd be considering him as a cut candidate potentially for this week if he doesn't produce week one for maybe a waiver wire ad, because he's not very high on the draft boards. You didn't probably invest very much into him, so um, don't don't be thinking sneak him into your lineup there in your flex spot or anything. Sit him, wait and see for a week and see what happens here. He could end up being good, and you can start him later, but I wouldn't trust him yet.
I really, Zach obviously didn't have one this week here for starts and sits, but I really want to say start Rashi Rice as a cheat code because you drafted him late because of the possible suspension, but like make sure he's in your lineup. Plus the fact
Yeah.
he's playing the Thursday nighter and you could just take off with like a 21-point week would be a fun little start. But anyways, anything you got to add here, Armin? We're wrapping this one up here. Looks like I'm giving you about 10 minutes of prep time for your big draft. So, anything to add here before we wrap up this episode?
I would say like just in the start sit kind of mindset here, just when you're setting your lineup for week one here, don't overthink it. Draft the guys you drafted or start the guys you drafted high and use them and don't overthink it yet this week. You just trust in what you have done and let it fall the way it does, because the worst thing you want to do is kind of be trying to be sneaky in the first week and end up losing just because you put in some guy that you thought might have a big week and he didn't.
One thing I will add too before we wrap this one up is make sure you take your Thursday players out of your flex spot. Talk about flex being like, yeah, like you can flex all your opportunities or players, whatever. If something happens and you put that RB in your flex spot, but all of a sudden your other RB is inactive, then you are scrambling to find an RB. So make sure you take your wide receivers or sorry, your flex Thursday night players out of your flex and put them in your wide receiver or RB spots. So, anyways, that will do it for episode 127. Fantasy football is here, folks. Enjoy it. I know I will. Take care. Let's talk soon.